This is Father Bonaventure Chapman.
This is Father Joseph Anthony Kress.
And welcome to Godsplaining. Thanks to all those who support us. If you enjoy the show, please consider making a monthly donation on Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to Godsplaining, the podcast, wherever you listen to your podcasts.
Okay. Yeah.
Father Joseph Anthony. First off, any announcements we have to do?
No, I think we're clean. Yeah, this is...
So I can start right off the bat here.
Okay.
The topic is angels.
Ooh.
But I want to know, what's with you and angels? Past, present, and you can even say future.
Wow, I'm throwing paper around.
But you grew up Catholic, so I
did grow up
suspect
Catholic.
You have angel practices.
I think that the thing I remember most about angels is like... there's like little precious moment statues, the ceramic precious moment ones. Like that, I think that was the first time I encountered an angel was through that, and that's like very much shaped my understanding in what I think of angels.
Yeah.
I do remember though in high school, we had a new chaplain in our high school, a newly ordained priest, and at that point he started talking about devotion to guardian angels and things like that, and he mentioned it's like, oh, you can learn the name of your guardian angel, and I was like, that's awesome. So I sent out.
We'll get into that.
Yeah. I set out on the whole path to. I thought that would
really.
Be like,
when was this? How old?
Well, I was in high school.
Okay.
And I thought it would be great. Like if I could get like that was also like kind of like punching the frequent flyer card. If I could get the name of my guardian angel, obviously I was better and holier than everybody, which was my goal in high school, was to be better and holier than everybody.
That is a good goal. Most people did not have that goal in high school.
Well, it wasn't necessarily focused on the holiness.
Goal,
I wanted to be better everybody and cooler because like I knew the name of my guardian angel. So I set out to like start praying. I was like, dear guardian angel, what's your name?
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of my prayer in high school.
Interesting.
To this day, I still don't know the name of my guardian angel.
Yeah,
like I have no concept, and I've given up. I don't care. I actually have a good relationship. Like I pray to my guardian angel. Like we good. I don't know his name. I don't really care to at this point.
So no, the guardian angel prayer, of course, is a common one. Do you pray at other times to him, or do you? Okay.
Yeah, I have. I have kind of my own adapted version of prayers to my guardian angel, especially at night when I go to sleep. Like I have some prayers and things I speak to him about. But then I also have. I will talk to him about like when I have bigger endeavors coming up. Like if I'm traveling for somewhere, it's weird. Like I always go back to him. I'm like, hey, I got this big thing.
He's like the travel agent. He has certain briefs that you feel like he's kind of in charge. I think we have the sense of like even saints have, certain saints you ask for certain things, or patrons, but the guardian angel has like patron of particular acts of your. He's all of it, but he's especially in these particular acts. That's fascinating.
So I'm not somebody that has like crazy super devotions to my guardian angel, but I do check with him like on a regular basis, and we good.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool. I mean, I grew up, as a Protestant, so angels weren't really that present that much. Of course, in the culture, they're present, Cupid and all this kind of stuff.
Exactly.
My grandmother actually loved angels. So she was
that
angel
seems like
pins.
a real good thing for grandmas to do.
Yeah, grandmas. She just loved angels. And so I remember that. But in general, I'm like the opposite of you. My guardian angel's like he's the Maytag man. Like he's there. I need to be better about him.
Maytag
because
man.
When you become Catholic, you I think you kind of walk down the hierarchy of truth sort of things.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I tell people like you particularly with you could say the devotional practices and doctrines. So Mary, the saints, and angels. And I always tell people like you kind of go through a point where you're like, let me get Mary right. I got to get that figured out, like get her sorted and kind of feel comfortable with her. And then you can get the sort kind of, then it's like, okay, well, the saints, Mary falls from the saints, sort of thing. You got this, like once you're into Mary, you're into the saints, they're more plausible.
Right.
It makes sense in your practice in your daily life. And then I feel like once you get the saints, for me, I'm so excited about the saints.
And you're
but
like, I don't need anything else. Like, I'm good with it.
Well, I don't know. And then the angels, they're just another thing.
Yeah.
Because they're different than, humans. So they require you to do a lot of extra work to get involved in them.
And they're so like nebulous, and I mean that in the word but like you can read a biography of a saint, you can read their letters, you can read their writings and like get to know the saint, and the more you get to know them, the more your devotion grows, or all that kind of fun stuff. But the angels, you're just like, y'all just here?
That's true. I mean, they're
talk to me, like what you got, and like it's hard.
So I'm excited to talk to you about this because we're going to get some pointers, of course, on this sort of thing. So since you're an angel expert, you might be the Godsplaining angel expert. And because it's always reminding myself when I talk about these things. I'm hoping that no one ever asks me to give a talk about angels. But that would be good, or teach a course on it, because then I would have to.
You'd have to
really work on it. Otherwise, yeah. But I know my guardian angel. I love you. I'm sorry. I'll pray more. I will. Yeah, I should, because angels are great. But let's find out why they're so great.
Yeah,
so tell me about angels.
What, gosh, I don't know. Man.
Basic, so angels aren't human, fine, but they aren't rocks either.
No,
so what makes angels fundamentally different from us? Would you say?
I would say the fundamental difference between us and angels is the fact that we got some bodies.
We got bodies.
We're
embodied
no bodies.
spirits. They're not disembodied spirits.
They're pure spirit.
Pure spirit.
Right.
And that's good, better than disembodied. Disembodied, because we will be disembodied spirits. We're going to get back our bodies. But angels, regardless of Michael and the movie with John Travolta and other things, they're not getting bodies. They're good. They don't want them.
They don't want them.
Don't want bodies, because they won't be angels.
They have at times appeared in this world
under bodily form,
but they don't have bodies. That's right. And they never will. And their nature is to not have a body, right?
Yeah.
And just our nature as human beings is to have a body. Yeah. So in the violence that happens at death is the separation of soul and body. But they're ordered towards each other. And so we will gain our bodies back again at the general resurrection. Whereas angels will not gain a body at the end of times.
What's this interesting punishment for angels would be getting a body as opposed to being separated one from them, if they could be punished in that way. But of course that's not the real punishment for them is separation. But it would be a punishment for an angel to have a body.
Yeah. So I think the first thing to understand is that angels do not have bodies.
Yeah.
They are pure spirits.
Yes.
Right. And because they don't have bodies, that gives them kind of a different engagement with the world, with creation, and different engagement in that. They themselves are created, right?
Yes.
They even though they don't have bodies, they're not God.
Yep.
So they're
not eternal in the sense of always existing. They are immortal.
Right.
As all immaterial things are.
Right.
But they're not eternal of themselves.
They are created, right? And then
finite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think the other aspect to understand with angels is because they don't have bodies, their intellect, right? They do have intellectual powers. They have intellect and will. Their intellectual powers operate similar to ours, but not exactly, right?
Yes.
Because we learn through our senses, through our bodies. But since they don't have bodies, they can understand all things at once.
Yeah.
So they don't necessarily gain or diminish knowledge.
Yeah.
Like we can. We can gain knowledge sequentially as we bodily experience new realities.
Yes. This is good. Yeah. So they are spiritual, pure spirits, which means that they don't exist in space and time, although they can act on space and time. But existing in space and time means they don't take up space,
right?
Because they're pure spirits, and they don't act, and they don't exist in time. So their thoughts and their choices, for instance, are not discursive. We talk about discursivity, as you said. The senses. I come to know this. I come to know this further. I come to know this further. So, if this is this and this is that, then this is that, right? We have a sense of, and there's a temporal sequence there. But notice that there's nothing in that logic. A is B, B is C, therefore A is C. For us, that takes time to see that A is C, and it takes space if we write it out. But there's nothing intrinsical about that logical structure that means that time has to be involved.
Right.
Nor that space. It's not like I need to see A, arrow, B in 5 inches, B, arrow, C, 5 inches, and then it's not like that needs to be in space. In fact, most of the time, it's not in space. I just thought about it, and we didn't write it. And if you say, well, it was in your mind, but remember, in your mind, there's no space in there. Like if I do this with the students sometimes to get, because initially it seems weird to think about spiritual activities, like immaterial activities. Right. And I say, look, it seems weird, but it's not that weird when you think about it, literally. Imagine a triangle, a colored triangle, right? And spin it around or something, and they say, oh yeah, okay. So I say, well, how fast was it spinning? And it's like, okay. And I say, well, how big is it? And they say, oh, it's about 5 inches. Like, wow, 5 inches. Where did you fit that in there? Is it up on the left? I'm like, no. And I say, okay, so it's much smaller, right? It's maybe like a nano inch. It's like, no, it's not any size. Like, right. And then the time one's different because of how time consciousness goes.
Right.
But you can get the same sense of like there's
Unless you're
the
Christopher
logical
Nolan.
thing. Yeah, exactly. The logical things aren't related by temporal sequences,
Right.
even though you see A then B, B then C, A then C in a temporal sequence. It's not essential to it that you see it in that way. So they have the same acts of knowledge in that way.
Right. I think that's
and even it's harder, I suppose, for us is acts of will.
Acts of will.
Right? Those, they're choices. Our choices are discursive again over time.
Right.
Whereas for them, all of it's once, because you don't have to learn anything new.
Right. And so when we look at their, we talk to them as being pure spirits, but they also have the intellectual powers of intellect and will. Right?
Yep.
And we know that the intellect informs the will. So if they know all things instantaneously, right, because they don't have bodies, then
new knowledge.
They have a perfect intellect, then we can say that.
Yep.
And thus their acts of will are perfect acts, right?
In a sense of complete.
That's what I mean.
Each one, exactly.
Each one is a complete.
Obviously,
perfect
Satan
act.
has made a quite imperfect act. But yes, in the sense of complete, there's not waiting for. There's no new information.
There's no new information,
upon
so
the
there's
creation,
no new
which is
act.
weird. Upon the creation of an angel, he need not wait for anything to make a decision. He has everything he will ever have.
Yep.
For make a decision.
And that's so. And I think you bring up the other point that I wanted to get to is that so their act of will is complete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so when we talk about angels, right, there are good angels and bad angels, right? We talk about angels that are good,
and then
the bad ones are bad angels are typically referred to as demons, and you can listen to another episode of Godsplaining on demons,
which I think comes out first.
Yeah, I think
reverse order, but maybe. Well,
yeah,
you go from sin to grace, so maybe that's the way to go.
So that's why the act of will of the angelic beings is kind of irreversible.
Fixed.
Yeah, fixed.
In a way that ours isn't.
And in ways that ours, we can make new acts of will because we have bodies.
Yeah.
And they don't. So their singular act of will, that's either to obey God and honor him and submit and revere him and love him, or to reject him and to live in now rebellion. There's no kind of changing that because there's no new intellectual knowledge that will take place. So that's when we see that. And I think it's really important for us to understand the kind of very nature of angels, that they do have intellect, they do have will, which means they are able to know and love.
Yep. But
their acts of will are fixed.
Yeah.
Once they make that act, it's fixed.
On the demon side, this means, and the fathers have talked about this, I expect. It's the other two. It was the other two. So on the demon side, that means that like you can't. Like praying for the salvation of Lucifer or someone doesn't make sense because he's not waiting for anything.
Yeah.
He's got everything, so he's fixed. On the angel side, it means that your guardian angel, don't worry.
Yeah.
He's good. Like he's not going to stray. He's not going to ever be.
He's not going to be spoiled.
He made the choice for God, and therefore he's always committed to God.
Yeah.
In this complete way.
And his commitment to God is a commitment to you, to love you, honor you, and protect you.
Because he has been created for you. Which is crazy in the sense that you are on the scale of being lesser than him.
Right.
All right. This is interesting in the fall account in the Quran. I don't know if you know this, but this is fascinating. In the Quran, the fall account of Lucifer, Iblis, he is tempted by God in the incarnation. So he's tempted by God to assist those lower, and he thinks it's a test. I think if I remember correctly, he thinks it is a test because he knows that humans are lower than him, and he thinks God is testing him to come up with the right answer, which is humans are lower than me, therefore don't subordinate yourself to them.
Right.
And but because of the divine voluntarism, of course, God wants them, even though it's true. He does no reason for it. We have a sense of, even though it's crazy, we are lower than the angels on the ontological schema, but because of the incarnation and God's love, in a sense, the angels, as it's in Hebrews, like they long to look into the things.
Yeah.
And like because God didn't take on an angelic form, he took on a human form. He didn't incarnate, spirit inspirate as an angel. He didn't take an angel nature to himself in a hypostatic union. He hypostatically united himself in one person to a human nature, right? And that gives us a sort of dignity which is not it's a borrowed dignity. So our dignity above the angels in that way is it's not of our own. It's from him. Okay, so that's what angels are in a sense. And we talked about how that although they don't exist in time and space, in the sense of time and space being the coordinates of their being in the way, they have a sort of temporal and a spatial sense, but we just, because time and space for us is sensible, it's hard we have to like just think about that through inferences. But they can act in time and space.
Yeah.
Obviously, it'd be absolutely useless to us to talk about angels, other than as pure speculation. And the guardian angel would be a weird thing to have if he wasn't able to do it, if he had no powers.
Yeah,
right. So while they have the capacities, they've got intellects and wills, which are what you need to act in a spiritual fashion, not what you need to act in a sort of physical fashion, but they can, with God's assistance, of course, take on things, but they act on particular places, and that's how they're present and how they exist with us.
No, I think that's so important. Like, unfortunately, we're not going to be able to break down all the different choirs of angels and their proper roles and powers and all that stuff. Like, that's a whole nother 45 minutes to break down every single choir. Yeah. But, there are certain angels that actually do interact with this created world, right? And how do they interact with it?
What's their brief?
And I think, how that you brought it up, which is so important, is that like they act like not necessarily according to physicality or location or temporality in that, but act in their power. Right. So they bring their spiritual realities, right? Their intellect and the will and all that they have in that kind of proper act of will of glorifying the Lord, right? Mm-hmm. They bring that to bear in this created world in that power, right? Yeah. And so when they do engage with this created world, right, they do so bringing that power, which has been now consecrated in a certain sense to God by their act of will.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So we can talk about different guardian angels, whether that's our own personal guardian angel or a guardian angel over a specific place, building, country, and things like that. But these angels are entrusted to certain tasks in areas of this to bring that power there. So their presence in this created physical world, right? Mm-hmm. Their presence in this physical world is linked to their kind of powers, not necessarily any other kind of engagements.
So you can't bump into an angel, but an angel can bump you.
Kind of, yes.
So this has the sense that angels are present by their powers, by acting in a particular place. So in a sense of like they're not present in their persons, except through their powers. Now, this is not unlike how God is present to the world.
Right.
Of course, God is present to the world, but we don't mean by that like I'm going to lift up a rock and there I found God.
He's present in the world and that he holds it in existence, right?
He's in a sense touching it from the outside in all things and able to enter into it most inwardly.
But then he does kind of inject himself into that as well. So he does hold it all in existence.
Yes.
But then he inserts and injects himself in precise ways and precise moments and precise times.
Yes. And this is where when we think about like, well, okay, angels can act they're not in the world, but they can act on the world and through the world in a sense. Mm-hmm. Well, when we think about how, okay, well, or like what should we ask them about? In a way that God does this as well. He is present by his power and his essence, so he's undergirding all these things you say, and he can enter into everything because he created everything.
Yeah.
Angels are spiritual in the sense of pure spirits in a way like God, so they're not in space and time, but they can act on space and time, but not in the way that he can. Right? Because they didn't create anything, so they don't know the special codes, you could say, the cheat codes to get inside. So an angel, for instance,
they're not like a computer science programmer who's looking at the code. So for instance,
you might think for a guardian angel is really helpful in math exams because he can tell me the answer to this thing, or he can make me, more importantly, he can make me love someone.
Right.
But he can change my will.
Yeah.
But of course, he's a finite creature, so even though he can act and he knows a heck of a lot more, his actions are still largely influential on our will, although he can present things for our intellects to grasp quicker, directing attention, this sort of thing, much better. But it's not like he gets inside of us in our spiritual thing, because in a sense, spirit is impermeable to spirit.
Yeah.
Matter is permeated by spirit.
That's it. And
but
I think
spirit and spirit can't permeate. That's why more than one angel can't dance on the head of a pin.
That's right.
But they can't permeate that.
And I think that's interesting is like when we talk about how matter is permeable by spirit and
it's open to it.
What can an angel do? What kind of activity can an angel do? Well, they can't control your mind. They can't get inside of your soul and start to puppet you, right?
Yep.
They can only kind of present things and they can't hijack your will. They can't overcome you.
Your choices,
right?
They can't make you make a free choice.
You're always free in that sense.
And they can move stuff.
But they can present things. They can, even propose or convince in a certain sense, but they can't control.
Yes.
And so, but the unique thing is because they are spirit, they can do this presentation or proposals on an interior level to us.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that kind of throws people off. And it's like, wait a second, there's something else inside of me that is not me. And it's like, well,
no,
yes, no.
Well,
but
because he's not inside anything.
Right.
But he can act in a way, and it's not crazy. It's like surgeons, right? Initially, surgeons, you can't get in. I wish we could get into this organ in a way. We couldn't until now we have laparoscopic. We don't have to open up. We can actually get in things. You can think of the spiritual activities as, they can get closer in.
Right.
And they can't, again, the core sort of thing they can't get to because it's ungettable, except by the creator. But they have more power as a creature to get deeper in
because they are pure spirit and they can inspire you and those types of things. And especially this is a discussion once again that maybe kind of raised red flags for people who are super attuned to it or super sensitive to it, especially with the activity of demons. But the activity of demon is nothing other than angelic activity. It's just nefarious.
Yeah.
Right. So when we're talking about the activity of angels, in a certain sense, you can apply this to the demons. It's just they do it for order of death, destruction, and nefarious.
Beneficent,
But the good angels do it for the glory of God, right? And the glory of God is man fully alive. So they want to see each and every one of us glorify him in our humanity in this way. And so to not be afraid that an angel cannot read your mind.
Yep.
An angel cannot control your mind.
Yes.
Now, an angel can propose certain things that, they're really good at kind of reading the nuances of our own minds. I think we as human beings, because of our discursive knowledge and will and all this, and the fact that we suffer from sin and have a darkened will or a darkened intellect and a weakened will, sometimes we lie to ourselves more, and angels are not kind of thrown off by that.
Yes.
And so they
read faces and gestures and body language much better than the best coach could.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so they know kind of what we will respond to the best.
Yeah.
And so they can make these proposals and suggestions that knowing we will respond pretty well to it.
Maybe I'm an analogy man. Maybe here's a good analogy is that think of a house that has fences and it has a front yard and a backyard and all that stuff, but then there's the house and there's the front door. They have great products that they want to get to us in a sense. They're great salesmen, but they can only get into the front yard. We have to spiritually, for our spiritual powers, open the door for them to let them in. Now, if we let them in, they're much better than we could because they've got a way to help us out. Just like, for instance, if you open your will to demons, they will do a heck of a lot more damage in your life than even the worst person will.
Yeah.
They have a lot more tools to get at your life and screw up your house in a way that a person will not have the same power and this sort of thing. But at the end of the day, in the spiritual core in your soul, you have to let them in. So demons, you say, no thanks, no solicitors here, please. But angels, this is the other side. I just keep demons out. But actually, the value, of the good angels is that no, they can really fix stuff up quicker. Yeah. They're like the guy who's watching you from the house next door, or standing outside looking in the window, saying you're kind of muddling it. I have a great tool. I have a great idea, a great way to help you.
They're the general contractor who can just
in your own house. I know you're stacking plates in this one, clean this one, but you could do it a lot better if you just let me in, let me help you.
Yeah.
It's not like he comes in and you sit on the couch. He's going to come in because you can't give up your job of washing the dishes, but he can tell you how best to do it, so that you can be the better person that you ought to be. But so it's not just keeping demons out, but rather the point, I'm telling myself at this point, is angels are just really good at helping you sort out your intellect and your will, because they are fantastic intellectors and willers.
And
because they're pure spirits.
Yeah. And because they're pure spirits, they're attuned to their counterparts, the demons, where we are not attuned to them.
Oh, that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they're spirits. And so there are certain things, and this is why we ask for the protection of our own guardian angels or other angels,
like
Saint Michael, the archangel, right? There's beautiful devotions to him. And there's ways that we can open the door to those good angels, asking for the help, saying, hey, listen, I know you're a little more attuned to the other angels around me.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And we do live a life that is a spiritual battle, and I can't perceive them.
Yeah.
So I ask for your protection to help me, defend me, right? And give me the clarity of maybe where I would be a little susceptible to a nuanced of a temptation or a demonic influence.
Yeah.
Because you could see a bit more than I can.
Yeah.
And that's where we like let the angels in that door. And that's why we want to encourage certain practices of keeping good relationships with our angels, guardian angels, or other types, Archangel Raphael or Saint Michael, and Gabriel, and those types of things to like have that devotion. I mean, for crying out loud, we have liturgical days, right? We have the Feast of our Guardian Angels.
Remind us.
I mean, that's why I love those. Feast of the Archangels and the Feast of Guardian Angels are the only two days that are celebrating non-humans. Mm-hmm. Like we have the feasts of God, like Pentecost and things, but
Holy Spirit,
but they're focused on kind of the Lord's life in that way. Yeah. We don't have a celebration of like God the Father.
Yeah, we don't have God the Father Sunday.
Yeah,
yeah.
We have Trinity, maybe that, but
But
then the rest of our liturgical feast days are all on saints.
Yeah.
But guardian angels and the archangels, those are non-human beings
agents
that we celebrate, which is kind of cool. I like that.
Yeah, that is beautiful. And they're also, it's a reminder because we see things through our senses and receive things mostly through our senses. Therefore, it's easy to forget.
Yeah.
And not be attentive to the angels. So it's like a nice reminder each year in these two feasts, this sort of thing. Okay, so now. There might be someone like myself, and maybe some other
hypothetically
there might be
me,
a few Catholics, or someone else who wants to get involved in like praying to angels or integrating angels in their life.
Yeah.
But of course, there are dangers in these, and there's dangers in everything. But what advice do you have? So what advice, since you're the angel expert here? You're an angel whisperer.
I'm not the angel whisperer.
But you got something. At least in this table, you are the expert.
Yeah.
All expertise is relative from the Lord on downward. So what do you suggest to people about starting with developing a devotion to angels, not because of some sort of mechanism, but because they want to help us be better knowers and lovers of God if we let them door? How's the best way to open the door, open windows to get them in?
Yeah, I love that kind of analogy about like how do we let the angels in to our life? And that's exactly what this kind of question is all about. Is like how do we let them in? And I think there can be small prayers to like recognizing that we each have guardian angels, right? Mm-hmm. And that there are even guardian angels over locations as well. Mm-hmm. Like the Lord has asked his angels to come down to
act
assist
on particular areas.
Yes, for particular people or areas and things like that. So to recognize that that is a reality.
It's true.
Mm-hmm. It is true. It exists whether or not we see it or not.
Yeah.
And so to like kind of lean into that and to not get so caught up with like, what's my guardian angel's name or which specific, but just know that that's there and invoke their power and give them permission to assist us.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah,
not to control us.
No.
Not to,
open doors. You're still in the house. You're not taking a
absolutely.
vacation. They're not taking over the house. You're in the house. They're helping you to see things more clearly, which you would have seen if you spent more time, or even some things you can't see because your glasses are fogged up or something.
Exactly. And I think that's the other thing is like with the angels, to recognize that there are areas that we are, because of our human frailty, because of our physicality, that we need to rest. We need to actually kind of render ourselves incapable of seeing everything all the time, but the angels can. So that's why like the prayer to the guardian angel before we sleep is like a beautiful prayer because I'm going to render myself incapable for a period of time. Yeah. And I still need protection.
It'd be good to have protection on the inside, not just on the outside.
Absolutely.
I've got the door locked, or what have you. I've put up all this thing. But what about internal protection from in my mind, the kind of influences, not again mechanistically, but rather just the kind of standard, internal dreams and stuff. That's fair.
Or with my own family or my workplace or things that like there are things that because of my humanity, I'm unable to perceive. Yeah. And thus, if I'm unable to perceive it, I may not be able to address it.
Yeah.
And so in those areas where I'm limited, I can
help to
ask
break
the
out
angelic
some of the limits.
Right. Like I can ask the angelic support for either protections or guidance or things like that. Nice. So like thinking in those ways of like what areas, can I ask the angels? Can I let them into the house to help assist my limitedness?
Yeah, that's great. Wow, fantastic. I love it. I'm hooked. I'm working on it. So thank you, Joseph Anthony, for giving us your angel expert.
Please, I am not.
Love it. Yeah. You have
if I get emails now, like I need to talk to the angel expert.
If you want to,
that's your fault. That is all your
viewers,
fault.
If you want to have a talk about angels, then please, Father Joseph Anthony is happy. He's a rosary expert and all things. There's lots of experts. One of his expertise when we do like press briefings, we say like
junkets on that.
When we have particular things to brief on, and angels are his thing. So that's great. Thanks for listening in to this episode of Godsplaining. Follow us on Facebook and X and Instagram and all those things. Like and subscribe. Leave a 5-star review if it's worth a 5-star review, I suppose. Don't lie. If you'd like to donate to the podcast, you can do that through Patreon. Links are in the show notes and on the website, of course. Please do check out the website for new merch. Maybe angelic Godsplaining merch. Who knows? We'll see. And to get information about upcoming Godsplaining events. So, know of our prayers for you. Please pray to your guardian angels for assistance and pray for us. We'll catch you next time on Godsplaining.
Father Bonaventure, if you had the choice between holding a toad and subscribing to a YouTube channel, what would you choose?
Subscribe to a toad holding a YouTube channel.
Oh my gosh. Please subscribe to a toad holding a YouTube channel, especially if it's ours. Cheers.